Hello, welcome everyone to the Distraction Retro Review. My God, Joseph, we're just doing everything nowadays. We're on Fightful Select now.
The plane has finally landed, Jeremy. After 11 months of suffering and battling through modern professional wrestling, we have finally made it to the promised land. Because here we are, reviewing stuff we actually like. We're in 1995, Monday Nitro, baby. I'm ready to go. I'm excited.
If this is their first time, this is the first time we've done this retro review podcast. If this is your first time ever listening to either of us, welcome. Where have you been? We've been doing this show, like Joseph said, for 11 months. I've been on the SmackDown review for a couple months now. We've taken over post shows for the main site. Like, we've done it all. But where have you been? If you're just now
We've been
with
doing
us?
this for 19 years. If you want to fight us, fight our tears. That's what I say, Jeremy.
It's
That's
a good
what I
DMX
say.
line.
Yes, it is. I'm going to try and bring these sort of more the references that people wouldn't respect, they wouldn't expect from me. You get that on the select in the $50 tier that I've exclusively agreed to with Sean Rossett.
So I'm gonna give some background on this. We do retro reviews every single month here on Fightful Select. I know Sean used to do them with a variety of people. Louis Dangor and Alex McCarthy used to do them before they just went out whacked on somewhere else. Is that the term, whacked on?
You're missing the it in the middle. So it's whack it on, meaning like put it on.
Oh,
So like if you said, say you were coming home, Jeremy, and I was cooking your dinner as I usually would, you would say whack it on, and I'd be like, sweet, I'm going to whack on Jeremy's dinner. You're taking it out and putting whack on, which is closer to what you want to say, which is the other thing that I'll not get into here. But yes,
that was McCarthy's exact tweet, wasn't it? Whack on. He didn't have the
He
it
said-
in there.
No, he did it. He was
Oh.
like, I've just whacked it on. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
we're dating this now. This could be out in a week, and everyone will be like, oh my god, I've got to scroll for a week of Hulbert's timeline. Good lord. Take me years.
Watch the product, everybody. You got to follow us on all platforms. If you're just watching on one platform, you're missing all the layers and the inside stuff. You can't just watch Dynamite. You got to watch Dark. You got to watch BTE. You got to check the Twitter. You got to do all of that.
Is this our BTE? Because I guess Dark is the film review, right, in some ways?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This could be our
that's strong.
BTE.
Okay, I think it's going to become that based on how this has started. But do not fear, folks, because we have notes. Jeremy and I are prepared, we're professional, and we have notes about professional wrestling.
This is probably the most professional show we're going to end up doing because both of us actually took notes for that. So yes, we are reviewing whatever we want each month here on Fightful Select. We have pretty free range and we're going to have some fun and stuff with it. We're going to review basically short shows because we watch enough wrestling during the week and neither of us wants to sit through a 3-hour pay-per-view every month because we already do that. We're not trying to do more of that.
Yes, it's a time in wrestling in which, like, on a regular AEW Dynamite, 3 matches will strive to be 4-star matches. Like, I do not need 20-minute Johnny B. Bad matches in my life again. No, thank you. So, we're going to do TVs, no 3-hour shows. If you follow me on the Twitter, one of every 1,000 tweets will be a poll for this very program. You can take part in that. And this was the winner because our fans are awesome. They know what we like. Jeremy, do you have any other promotion, or would you like me to set the table for this program that we watched today?
I don't think we have. I don't have to tell people to sign up for Fightful Select. You're already on Fightful Select.
That's what I was thinking. That's
Yeah.
a big game changer for the show. Anyway, this is just mere weeks after one of our favourite wrestling shows of all time.
Yes.
Right? Because this is weeks after the Yeti and the Giant falling off top of Cobalt Hall and all that good stuff. This is, in fact, Jeremy, the night after Survivor Series 95 as Bret the Hitman Hart dethroned Big Diesel for the WWF title. We are 2 months into the war, and this is the go-home show for World War III. My question for you, considering that this is the go-home Nitro, how many matches are you aware of taking place at World War III?
So here is my thing. I was at World War III, 1995.
You told me this. Yes, this is awesome. Go.
Yes.
Do you remember all of it, I hope, right?
I remember a majority. I was actually going through some photos. If you're on my timeline, you saw the Sting photo of me. That was 1995 Halloween when I dressed up as Sting. And then 2020 Halloween, I also dressed up as Sting. But I was at World War III, and it was my first ever live wrestling event. So I'm fairly aware of like what was going. I did not realize this was the go home show for that event when you said this is the show we're reviewing. But yeah, I'm fairly aware of like what's actually going on. If you watch this show, like this Nitro, you have no idea what's taking place on World War III outside of this 60-man battle royal.
Right, now they touch on Ric Flair. We'll get into the show obviously, but I thought this was an interesting thing because this was a weird time in wrestling where it was transitioning from, obviously Eric was focusing on TV. If you can't tell from the fact that on free TV he's doing Sting and Hogan and you have to pay for a 60-man battle royal. But like, it's very interesting how they promoted pay-per-views with these early Nitros that are only 1 hour. Because like the Sting Flair match, the only build that gets is Flair is just like, I'm focusing on Sting.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you get. And then they're doing some stuff with Savage and Luger, that's fine. And the one other one is Bubba and Duggan, which I'll get to that. So it's an interesting time because as much as Eric, Bischoff's an interesting case because he wants more credit and he often gets less because he wants it so bad, right? Like he just wants you to give him the credit. But he did change wrestling television, and this show kind of proves it because it couldn't be less about Saturday's event. It's like, it is all about tonight, right? That's the whole deal here. It's interesting.
I remember World War III opened with, I believe, Johnny B. Bad against Diamond Dallas Page, and there's no mention of either man on this show at all. Maybe there's like a brief like clip or something. No clip, but like maybe there's just a brief like throwaway line, but there's no actual, like, you would not know this match is taking place on Sunday if you watch this show.
There's not even any like graphics, right?
No.
It's not even like they come back. And the ironic thing about that is there's multiple times in this show where it's just Eric and the gang talking to us, and it's like, couldn't they have just spoken about the matches and done like a run through? AEW does like 8 run throughs every Dynamite, don't they? Like, next week, here it is, and Jim Ross gets himself ready to go. Slideshow screens come flying. Anyway, there is a welcoming deal with these Nitros. Bischoff's voice reached like a level for about 6 months of this show that he has never seen before or after. Like, he's like, welcome everybody! It's like, oh my Jesus, it's incredible.
Legitimately, my first note is Eric Bischoff is very fucking excited.
So excited. But it strays into like desperation, doesn't it? It's like you can hear the man's voice telling you how much he needs this to hear. He's, welcome everybody! It's like, geez. So here we have a quote, Jeremy, about our friend Eric. So when it cuts to that famous shot that we've all seen a million times of all of them sitting there, the famous like, Nitro announcer shot, and it's like the terror in Eric's eyes when Mongo's talking is extraordinary. Like, he is looking at Mongo like, this could be the end of my career here. And Eric says, and I quote, "You are going to see what is probably going to go down as in history as one of the hottest, most exciting wrestling shows of all time. This is without a doubt the Super Bowl of wrestling."
I wrote that down too.
Yes. So you watched this show. Clearly, we reviewed it. We're reviewing it now. Would you agree with the estimation that this will go down in history as one of the hottest, most exciting wrestling shows of all time?
Yeah, this is a fantastic show. Sure, it's hyperbole, right? Like that's what it is. My second note after Eric Bischoff is very fucking excited is Tony Khan stole this gimmick. Like, this is what Tony Khan is doing each and every week.
Yes. Genuinely inspired by it. Like, seriously. And Eric is so excited that he looks at Bobby Heenan dead in the eyes and he's like, "Mongo? We've heard from Mongo. Eric? Bobby? Tony?" He's like shouting names. Bobby tells us that he's rooting for Stang, who he would then like to fall down the stairs and hit his head. It is lost within the Bobby Heenan narrative of, like, he phoned it in W. It's lost how awesome he was for that first, like, few years, right? Yeah. He still had his fastball at this time. And he is tremendous throughout the show.
So we get the big announcer speak. Mongo has his dog. Do you know what's the dog's name? Pepe? Yeah. So Mongo has his dog and everything there. Our first match of the evening.
Strong word.
Scott Norton and the Shark the Shark attacks Norton coming out. Eric Bischoff says they pound salt near each other, and then they says they make their presence felt on each other as they just punch each other a lot. That's this whole match. They're just hitting each other.
Yeah. So, one of my favourite things about Nitro is these crowds love wrestling. Like, me and you could go out there, and if we have a great match, they're going to be like running wild, right? This was a step far for them, because they immediately were like, oh, Jesus, what's going on here? And God bless him. Tremendous big man was Earthquake, the Shark here. But I have to read possibly my favourite Wikipedia extract of all time. This is about the Shark gimmick. The Shark gimmick. He believed this could be the beginning of a long-term gimmick and even changed the tattoo on his arm of an LSU tiger to that of a shark, a process that took 24 hours. Mere months after this match, he does the promo where he's like, I'm not a shark, I'm not an earthquake, I'm a man. This poor guy. And here he is. And he effectively, like, he gets like a 2-minute heat segment and just gets pinned. And it's like the flattest thing ever. Eric does a hotline ad that is like borderline offensive. He's like, any wrestler you've ever seen in your life, call Mean Gene Oakley. He will know where they are.
No, it's Tenay. It's Tenay. Yeah, on the hotline for this. He says something like, we got people out of WCW. They left today. Call and find out who they are.
Yeah, and there's one where he's like, people that aren't here for now. So he's like he's gonna collect them, find them, hunt them down. This is not
Norton
the opener,
wins.
like,
go ahead.
I was just gonna. This is not the opener that's indicative of those, like, you know, those famed like Nitro red hot openers. This isn't the one to point to, is it?
No,
unfortunately.
No. Norton wins with a power slam, and Shark just is immediately up. He kicks out at 3.1, and he's immediately up, just not selling any of this. I mean, he's a Shark. Why should he be selling this power slam? Should have just eaten Scott Norton.
Good point. That's a fair point, but that was not actually about. He's not a street guy, you see, so he wears these. Anyway,
we're not doing that.
We're not doing it. Jimmy Hart is here with Kevin Sullivan. Jimmy Hart screams a lot, and Kevin Sullivan pulls faces. Jimmy Hart, he mocks Sting's lack of invite to the Baywatch episode. Very funny. And then Sullivan somehow is still convinced that the Hulkamania is going to end at some point. Still convinced. And then Mean Gene turns to the camera and is like, two of the biggest pieces of human garbage I've ever interviewed in my life. Back to the ring.
I wrote Jimmy Hart is very hyper. Baywatch has torn Hulk and Sting apart, as it would. I mean, look, if you go on Baywatch with somebody else and you don't take me with you, then I would be very upset at you.
If this show gets big enough that I'm getting invited on Baywatch, you shouldn't be upset at anything, okay? This leads to the quote
Big Dick,
Bobby
giant Dwayne. Big Dick, yeah. Dwayne can invite you on Baywatch. I did write. Okerlund, Sullivan's promo sucked, by the way. I don't think it was a good promo. He felt
I don't get the Sullivan promo deal by this point.
Neither did Okerlund, because Okerlund literally says, like, what's your point, Kevin Sullivan?
And he's got the book, he's got the pencil at this time, and he's like, what are you talking about, Kevin? I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, that's what it is. Bobby has the line of the night following this, as he says, the Taskmaster makes Sigmund Freud look like an amateur. Talking about his mental warfare, and Mongo says, like my feet,
yes.
Your opinion sucks.
Stinks.
Wow.
Stinks. Yes.
Stinks, not sucks.
Yeah, no.
Definitely not sucks.
No, Mongo's feet do not suck. They stink.
They may suck too, based on how they move around the wrestling ring, but you're right.
How dare you?
Hey, pal. Look, it was what it was, okay? Is Mongo actually good, or like a degree of bad that just has never found itself on the scale?
He's horrible. But he's horrible and like that it's just hilarious, though. You know, I'll take that. I will take hilarious horrible over just like being offensively bad and adding like nothing.
That's fair. Who's the last guy we had that was that, though? They're very rare, aren't they?
Like, Mark Madden is just, like, offensively bad who adds nothing.
What was Jonathan Coachman when he came back and didn't know any of the wrestlers?
I don't remember anything from Coachman's run. I can't tell you who the announcers are on Raw right now outside of Samoa Joe, much less what Coachman was doing.
Hang on, I need to be careful. I don't want to fool myself. I think it's Tom and Byron.
Is it? Sure. I think you're right.
Coachman had the famous one where it was like Nia grabbed like a bear hug, and Coachman was like, Nia's just taking a rest here. She's like working a hole. I got very bad. Anyway, Disco Fever, baby, yeah.
Buy his
He's
CD.
here. Yes, and he's enraged, Eric Bischoff, by invading this program, who gets incredibly mad, and then Eric Bischoff, like, he's going to get up, he's going to throw his format, it's not on the format, he's waiting for Eddie Guerrero and Ric Flair, and Eddie just walks out and Disco leaves. Fair enough, right? He was polite enough, he took his moment. Oh, it's your match, Eddie, I'm sorry, oh, you go. Here's the funny thing here, Jeremy. I knew what was on this show, because I'm the one who put the poll up and I explained to everyone what's on this. They throw up that Ric Flair Eddie Guerrero graphic, and I'm like, hang on a second. I didn't know Ric Flair Eddie Guerrero. They convinced me, even though I knew it was on here, that this was on there. Of course it isn't. Flair comes out and says he's not going to wrestle. Pillman takes his place. And he says that Arn and Chris are on the jet with Hooter Girls. So, even though I knew it was on here, WCW managed to mislead me and upset me. Incredible scenes.
Flair comes out, and I think he had a legit injury at this time, and so he couldn't actually work. But he basically just says, like, Guerrero, you're beneath me. I ain't wrestling you. Like, Pillman, this is your match. I'm going to party with Hooter Girls with Arn and Chris. The jet will be waiting for you, Brian. Whenever you get done, come on back. We'll have the champagne. We'll have the Hooters, and we'll have a good time. And then he just leaves. And Bischoff is irate over this. He's like, I can't believe this man. We had him scheduled. We had him booked. He's just out here changing the plans on the fly. What is happening here? Bischoff is just ready to bury and fire Ric Flair on the spot.
I'm with Eric though, because I got momentarily excited because I know that Rick and Eddie have like a good Nitro match somewhere in here, and I thought this was going to be it, even though I knew it wasn't. So there's that. But this is still fun, right? And Pillman's still great. So Bischoff starts doing this deal that I didn't remember. Like, we all remember him taking shots at Raw, right?
Yeah.
But he then starts doing the one in this show where he's like, they're doing a commercial over there.
Yeah.
Don't. It's like, he's like making a bit out of the fact they run commercials. He does it twice on this show. Like, what does that even mean? I was very confused by this claim. That he was like upset.
How is this confusing, though? Well, the problem is this is 1995 and not 2020. Because if it was 2020, Bischoff would have reason to be like, they're doing a commercial over there. Don't tune in. If it was now, Jim Ross in 1995 would have been like, we're at commercial, but we got a restaurant quality picture-in-picture for you. So if you flip it over, we're still here for you. So Bischoff has to tell people, don't flip it over. They're at commercial.
A few short days ago, I don't want to date this podcast, our friend Tape Machines tweeted, AEW asks Jim Ross to say the word picture far too much. And I legitimately nearly started crying because the idea that there's a tone of his voice when he gives that line that's like so insulted that he has to say picture in picture. Like, he's so disgusted with where he's at. And it's glorious every single time. But anyway, you're correct.
He comes up with a new tag to put. Restaurant quality is my favorite one. Like, what does that even mean? A restaurant quality picture in picture.
I like it when there's a fourth on the desk and he's like, he can tell he doesn't like it and he's uncomfortable. So everything he says, he ends it with Tony. Look, he just wants to have a conversation with Tony exclusively. He's like, shut these guys up, Tony. Let's play on our own. These fellas get straight to it, right? I mean, this is a fun little match. They immediately tell you their whole style stands out like a sore thumb because this is the start of that movement. They're killing each other with chops. It's awesome. Pillman eats the rail on a dive, which looked filthy. Eddie then does a dive, and then what do we call it? They go up top. He pushes off. He hits an awesome frog splash. Right, looked tremendous here. But it was pretty short. What did you say? This is 5-6 minutes?
Yeah, I think it was about 6 minutes. And the announcers spent more time talking about Sting and Hogan than they did talking about this match. Mongo did have the line. Apparently, Bobby Heenan's just very stinky because Mongo has the line do you need a breath mint? And Heenan's like, what? He's like, because your breath smells. Like, you're stinky. So Bobby Heenan does not shower. His opinions stink like Mongo's feet, and his breath stinks as well.
Wow. Mongo is bringing it all to the game. He had his whole arsenal ready on this one. It was the Super Bowl of wrestling. This match was one of those deals that I always found interesting about Nitro, where Nitro definitely had an element of fantasy booking simulator to it, didn't it? It was just here guys we have. It got a lot more so in 98 where they'd signed every wrestler that had taken a bump. But like this match getting just 6 minutes and being an absolute nothing throwaway is so WCW. And I understand it. Obviously, Eddie's not a star yet, and Pillman is soon to be out. I guess there's a lot of issues. I mean, the fact that he lost this match feels indicative of where Pillman was at this point. Wouldn't you agree? Like, he doesn't come across great here with Rick sending him in. So this was all fun, though. Mongo, upon seeing the replay of Eddie's dive, says that he must have been a cliff diver in his past. And he doesn't say, he seems very sure of this. He's seen it before. He's ready to go. Who says no, right?
Yeah.
We go to a recap of Lex he's injuring Savage's arm, right? And we were trying to figure this out when we did our Havoc thing. Like, how long was Lex a heel? Because he's a babyface by the NWO stuff, right?
Yeah. I think Havoc was like the official heel turn, was it not? Because he was babyface at Fall Brawl, right? He was on that team. So I think like Havoc was like the official heel turn. But then he was still like partnered with Sting through early '96, wasn't he?
They do that stuff where I think it's actually Lex's best stuff. It's the stuff where like they're a team.
Yeah.
And when Sting's not looking, Luke will be a dick, and then Sting will turn around and be like, "High five!" Here you go. So he does that stuff. That's really good. But I'm just wondering how they get to the point where, I mean, it's easy to forget this, but at one point in the NWO angle, he's like the top babyface.
Yeah, he beats
Hogan.
He's
so hot that he beats Hogan.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, I don't know. I can't.
I think he gets there just because the NWO are such like top heels that Lex just turns by virtue of that, because everyone goes against the NWO.
It's, I know that he's polarizing, but it's way off that he's not a Hall of Famer in WWE, right? Like, they give so many guys that spot. He was super over at a couple different occasions. It seems, like, you know what's interesting? I know we're going off the rails here, but that's what this show's going to be. If you tuned into this expecting us to, like, isolate 1995, so November 20th, I don't know what to tell you, but what's interesting about Luger is, he's like, everyone talks about the famous run where it's like, the Lex Express, what a flop, and it's like, if you just watch the SummerSlam match, that crowd could not be more about Lex Luger. Like, they're so ready for him to beat Yokozuna. And you just sometimes wonder if, like, while I agree he was never going to be Hulk Hogan, is that one of those wrestling narrative deals, right? Is that one of those things that became, like, mythology that it failed tremendously, when in reality, it never really got a chance to hit the way it could have, right?
I think that is the thing. Like, just put the title on him. Like, they screwed up by not putting the title on him there. I mean, like, you've heard the comparisons to Roman Reigns before. Like, they should have put the title on him at 31. Instead, they went with Seth. And then what was the other Brock match was 32, right? 32, 33? I can't recall.
34, Jeremy. 34.
What?
Yes. 32, he worked Triple H.
Oh, 32 was Triple H.
Taker.
Yeah.
And then I was there for the second 3 years. That's how long stuff goes now.
God.
That's wild, right? That's
yes.
Crazy.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, regardless, like, sometimes if you have the guy and you want to make the guy, just put the title on him, pull the trigger. They didn't do that with Lex. Like, they killed them themselves. Like, Luger didn't do anything wrong. It's just they didn't pull the trigger on him for some reason.
And it's interesting because then it's a few years earlier, obviously, but that does lead them, I guess it's only 18 months maybe, that leads them to eventually doing, like, the ultimate pull the trigger with Diesel.
Yeah.
Right? Which obviously is, like, a year before this, but, I mean, he wins that belt, like, suddenly on MSG, so I agree with you. Them little moments where it's a match decision that easily could have gone the other way are, like, the cool little butterfly effect wrestling deals, right? Like, you just never know how differently things shake out.
It is amazing. Like, you're right. Like, Lex, some of his best stuff is that, like, early '96 stuff where he's partnered with Sting, and he's a showboat and stuff behind Sting's back, but, like, Sting is still his best friend and everything. Mm-hmm. And then he got super, super hot. Remember, like, Sting was like, I don't know if he was mad or whatever, but Luger beat Hogan in the middle of that run when everyone thought that Hogan was just supposed to be undefeated until he eventually lost to Sting. And it was, like, such a shock that they had to put the title on him during that run because he was so hot.
That's a weird... Like, I'm very fond of that stuff, and I hope we review it at some point. Like, the long build to Sting. But, like, the longer it went, they did some weird stuff. Because they do that title change, and then Hogan wins it back, right?
Yeah, like 6 days later.
he works Roddy at Havoc, and he loses to Piper in like a non-title match.
Yeah.
Like just strange. And at the end of the day, it didn't affect it because that match was still their biggest buy rate ever. What affected it was how they handled that match, right? But that's another podcast for another day. But it is interesting. I mean, it fascinates me how much content is packed into those prime Nitro years. There's like multiple full-length conversations to be had. And I just think we're probably never going to get that back, right? That kind of, like, one decision appearing to just change their whole trajectory at every turn. It was a wild time.
Yeah. Next up on this show, I did write down that, so they're going through the crowd, a fan has torn off the head of his Hulk Hogan foam little gimmick. This offended me, because why would you buy this thing just to tear the head off of it? That's just a waste of money.
Have you ever seen the famous GIF where Hulk Hogan is coming out of a WCW show, and a WCW fan is on the camera side, and he turns the camera, he cheers like he's a Hulk Hogan fan. As soon as he gets the camera's attention, he rips his shirt and he does the Four Horsemen thing. And it is a level of violence you've never seen out of a fan. There was a resentment there. I mean, this match, we'll get to that, so I'll leave it, but it's a very interesting, like, foreshadow of what came with Hogan, isn't it? Because the crowd is like, they're ready to boo him. So it doesn't surprise me, but I have a prop for the next match, so please lead it in.
Oh, first Savage. I'm going to talk about the Savage thing because Savage has the arm injury. My favorite part is Bischoff is like, what if he's faking this arm injury? What if it's all just to lure Hulk Hogan into his trap and, you know, he's not actually injured? Bischoff is throwing the layers out there, throwing the red herrings out there.
This is you'll remember better than me, but this is the show where Savage, like, submits to Luger, right?
Yeah.
And then he wins the 60-man, but Hogan, like, fake wins it, and he's like, you can take this one, brother. Like,
yeah, because Hogan gets eliminated. I can't remember if it was behind the referee's back or whatever, but Hogan gets eliminated, and then he essentially, like, pulls the Giant out of the ring, and Savage tosses him or whatever, and so Savage gets the victory, but Hogan, like, hands him the belt and everything. That was the Observe This Brother night.
Wow, that's incredible.
No idea. As a 8-year-old, however old I was, no idea what the fuck was going on in that whole bit.
What wrestler today should most do Observe This, brother?
Oh man, FTR, right? Isn't that that's their gimmick now?
They do that every
I
single
was
week.
about to say,
no more.
That's their gimmick now.
Jeremy, who's in the next match?
We have Big Bubba against Road Warrior Hawk.
One of the only action figures I own. Here he is, folks. Big Bubba. And what a showing he has here.
Oh boy, this is a match here. So Bubba's gonna face Duggan in a tape fist match at the pay-per-view. You know, spend your $50 now for this. Hawk and Bubba are wrestling in a corner spot. The object falls out of Bubba's pockets, right? Like it just falls out. He's got a little metal rod that just fits in your hand, and it just falls out of his pocket. And the referee has to, like, pull Hawk away, turn his back, so Bubba can pick this up and put it back in his pocket, so it doesn't just lay there on the mat the whole time. Because they wrestle for like another 2 or 3 minutes after this. Mongo actually points it out and is like, he's like, something just fell out of his pocket. And Heenan and Bischoff just sound so offended that he actually pointed this out. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Mongo. And Mongo's like, what do you mean? Is your vision bad? It was right there. It was right in front of you.
This was an adventure, because while that was funny, there are like 4 moments in this 3-minute match where Hulk appears to have forgotten that he's wrestling the rest of it. Like, it's insane. There's a moment where they're going to do like Bubba's in control, and the spot is going to be Bubba goes for a big splash and Hulk does something to turn the tide, right? And so his options are clear here, Jeremy, right? He could either move, or he can, like, do the old WCW deal that Sting used to take a lot, where he gets his foot up, like a big boot deal. Instead, Hulk just, like, headbutts Bubba. Bubba just launches himself. It's like, Bubba's throwing him over to the corner, and Hulk just, like, headbutts him directly. It's like, I love Boss Man, because for a guy of his size, he could be like a stooge in the heel because of how he'd hit the ropes and stuff. And there are like 10% flashes of that here. Listen, man, he had a task on his hand in this match because Hulk is just like, it's a different time for him, right? And the finish is how do we? So he does the deal where he takes his fist.
Yeah, he pulls the object out and he tapes his fist. Yeah.
And then, but they don't even call it like that because Heenan is like, boxers do it, and Bischoff says, but they wear gloves. Like, that's the idea of what he's doing. Like, if he had gloves on, it'd be fine, Bobby. He takes his fist, and then Duggan comes out and hooks Bubba's leg, even though he never should have run the ropes. It looks silly. And the idea is that Bubba fell onto his own hand and like knocked himself unconscious.
Yeah, because he has the object and it like sticks out. I was gonna grab something. I'll grab this remote here. So he has the object in his hand. He tapes his fist on there, and he's gonna smash him with it. But he runs the ropes. He gets tripped, and so he just goes bang like that, and he hits himself.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly it. It just is terrible, but like because it's all so poorly set. The thing about WCW is, and this is from two guys that love it, they are so bad at finishes. Like,
yeah.
They are the worst promotion ever at finishes, even probably worse than TNA. Because TNA would do more clean finishes because wrestling had changed by then, right? But like this time, it's chaos. And this one is a great example because they set it up on the other side of the ring so that the referee will miss Duggan, and it's like Bubba then has to just run the ropes for no apparent reason to hit this man with his tape vid. It just looks so silly. But that's what it is. This was not very good, unfortunately.
No,
but it was funny, though, for a range of reasons.
Do you know, buy the pay-per-view, see Duggan and Big Bubba with their taped fist after seeing this match.
I may need to actually do that. I may actually find that match. I'm definitely not buying the pay-per-view. I may watch that. It's time for the big one, Jeremy. Are you excited for this? The Super Bowl of Wrestling is up next.
Yeah. Sting against Hulk Hogan. Sting comes out. He's wearing red and yellow. Direct shot, like the Hulkster here. Sting is in the ring. He's waiting. Hogan's music plays and everything. Here comes Savage with his arm all bandaged up and everything. Savage just runs through the pyro. No one knows what's going on.
Explain this to me. Can you explain all of this to me? Because I feel like I have never watched WCW. Like, why does Hogan come out from behind with a mask?
So here's... I have no idea. So this is the best bit. Is like Savage comes out, I guess to like distract Sting or whatever. Hogan comes through the crowd. He's got this mask on that, just covers right up top there. Like that's all it covers. It's like a Mardi Gras mask, right? Like a plastic Mardi Gras mask is what he has on. It comes through the crowd and the crowd's like kind of booing him or whatever. Heenan and all the announcers are like, what's going on here? And then he's in the ring, and then Savage like, look behind you and everything. Sting turns around and is like stunned. He's like taken aback that his opponent is now behind him. And Hogan, instead of like hitting him or anything like that, just takes the mask off, throws it in the crowd, and is like, it's me, it's Hulk Hogan. And then they just start the match.
Sting just starts kicking the shit.
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff is like, I wanted to see this match, and now I would like it to end because I do not want it to fall under these terms. He's like, this is the Super Bowl of Wrestling, Eric. You can't just call it off because the guy was a dick and in a mask. What was happening here?
And they started the Super Bowl with an onside kick that the other team just recovered, and Bischoff is like, no, we cannot start the Super Bowl like this. Like, it's got to start with a proper kickoff, not an onside kick that actually means almost nothing.
I was like, trying to figure out if it was a matter of self-awareness on Hogan's part, and it established him as the heel. And I was thinking, there's no way. But because it does do that within the match.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the crowd wanted to cheer Sting, and at that point they are like, get this dude out of here. They're going wild. So, Sting is, like, in all seriousness, Jeremy, again, in fear of dating this podcast, it's wild that people debate the Crow surfer thing. This version of Sting is so awesome. The energy is just through the roof.
Yeah.
It's tremendous.
Surfer Sting absolutely rules. I think you're going to date it by talking about his appearance on the most recent episode of Dynamite.
Yeah, true. I'm pumped for him joining Butcher Blade and Eddie Kingston in that faction, by the way. This match is fascinating as like a case study because it's effectively an NWO Hogan match. Like, very much so. He works... Like, at one point, he bows, he gets knocked out the ring, he hooks Sting's leg, drags him out. He's wearing all black. The crowd is 100% against him until obviously the end where he has to do some Hogan stuff. But like, this feels like him experimenting with it, even though we know he had no interest in it at this time. So he's just interested in that sense.
He does some chain wrestling at one point. They're doing drop toe holds and...
Here's what you should do. Jeremy, this is a great tip for your brand, okay?
Oh, God.
I want you to go to the WWE Network. I want you to clip up Hulk Hogan's chain wrestling. And I want you to tweet, for those that say Hogan can't wrestle, fire emoji. And I want you to let me think, like Nick Aldis or someone like that and be like, please share, brothers. People don't respect the Hulk stuff. And I bet any money he'll quote to him and be like, real wrestling right here. Stop fetishizing that Japanese shit. This is some real wrestling. Now go watch his match with Muta where he does the same thing. Don't fetishize Japanese wrestling.
I can make a clip of this one little spot in this match. I only got to clip this one thing, right? I don't need to go through his whole archive.
Because that is the part I didn't mention, is like, it's a fun experiment, and then they just like do a match, and it's like, it loses its way a little bit in the middle, doesn't it? Like, Hogan sort of, it is what it is. There's a great moment with Mongo where he's like, I love this match, but like just as long as they don't get nasty in there. He's like, me and my older brother would fight all the time. And Bobby Heenan says, yes, but he's 9. And that was an incredible line. He's like, me and my older brother always used to fight, and we're still friends. And Bobby was like, yeah, he's 9. Like, just extraordinary. And he has nothing to say back to it. So there's some great little stuff in here. But once it does settle, it is like, it's as lame as you'd kind of fear. There's a cool moment where Sting does the Stinger splash deal and Hogan like catches him. It's like, oh, Hogan's gonna do something awesome, and he just does like bear Hogan.
Yeah, I do have something for you before we get to this finish. Sting does a drop kick that sends Hogan over the top rope. Great bump by the Hulkster, by the way, all the way over the top rope as a prelude to World War III, where he's got to go over the top rope. Eric Bischoff says half the guys in the NBA wish they had the athleticism of the Stinger. Who is the Sting comparison in the NBA today?
See, I think it would be more fun if you really want to do this bit to do like, who is Sting in NBA history?
That's fine. I mean, we can do that as well.
Sting is not a Hall of Famer, Jim. I don't know if you know this, but according to the highest form of professional wrestling Hall of Fames, that just inducted Kenny Omega, he's not a Hall of Famer.
I was about to say, I thought Sting was in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's in that one, but I think he's interested in the sense of like. So if let's think NBA, let's try and do this, Jeremy. Okay. What we say the equivalent of championship rings are in professional wrestling, like being the number one promotion. Are we saying that's championship rings?
Yeah, I think like being the number one promotion, a top guy in the number one promotion.
So like to give an example of what I mean, like AJ Styles was effectively Kevin Garnett. And the WWE run was when he went to the Celtics. That's the kind of thing I'm saying, right? So Sting, for a lot of time, would be like a guy who put up numbers on a team that just couldn't figure itself out. And then he has like, what we saying if we're being generous, 2 years on top while they're at number one? It's probably 1, right? Really?
Yeah, probably 1 year on top.
It's tough because he's one of my all-time favourites. But if you're doing like an objective greatest list, then he's probably falls rather far, I fear. I don't know. What do you think?
So I put thought into who he is today. I didn't put thought into who he is today.
Jesus, go ahead.
My comparison for today is Anthony Davis. And I say that as like number one option on, the Pelicans, put up big numbers on there. Goes to the Lakers, great option. Also, beside LeBron, when he was the top guy in WCW, I mean, look, Hogan was still Hogan. He was still drawing those numbers as Hollywood Hogan. So I went with Anthony Davis for a comparison of, like, today. All time?
You know what I like about that Davis one is, like, there's that perception of Davis that he's too nice, right? Sting was definitely too nice as a wrestler, wasn't he? Like, Sting's interesting because I feel like he achieved so much without ever really caring to achieve anything. Like, he was just chill, right? That's his whole deal. So
could you go Pippen all time? He won a lot of rings. I mean, that's the thing is like he did win like a ton of rings, but he was never when he was the number one option. I mean, he had a good run when he was the number one option. Like, Pippen put up big numbers and almost made the finals.
Pippen's probably like Triple H.
Yeah.
Bunch of successful years as like the co-star. When he was the star, it was like they were good, but they weren't historic. Fair. You know. I don't know. It's almost like this is a difficult thing to do, isn't it?
Especially without actually like researching it or anything and putting forethought into it. Now I really want to find one we can come to a mutual agreement on, though.
This think of guys that have like a solitary ring where they were on a stack team. That's what we need, right? Because
Paul Pierce,
the number one. That's a fun one. I don't know if I like it for many reasons, but I think it's a good one. Because the thing as well with Paul Pierce is like he always had the respect of his peers as a player, right?
Yeah.
And Sting was very much that. Like all the WWE guys were like, oh, you can go and work Sting. It was always the thing. Maybe he's Paul Pierce. That feels
mean.
Wrong,
that feels mean. Wade?
I don't know. Wade's the thing with Pierce is like it isn't actually mean. It's just because of the way that Paul Pierce has like changed his brand as a media guy. Paul Pierce is probably a good one because when he was number one guy, while the Celtics weren't good, but they loved him, right? Sting, the franchise, and all that stuff. I think you've done a good job with that, Jeremy. I mean,
Thank you. All right, we're going Paul Pierce. Sting is Paul Pierce.
Back to Nitro. Yeah. Where was we? Oh yeah, so then Bischoff does the ads deal again. Because he hates the idea of people running advertisements in a wrestling show.
There's no ads on this show.
Yeah, he also says, he's like, we don't talk about reach much in professional wrestling, but while we may have 24-inch pythons, Hulk Hogan's arms are long enough that he can reach halfway around the ring. And he's like, so, what? Okay, cool. Then he puts the Scorpion Deathlock on. Hogan like powers out of it and just hulks up.
Yeah.
And then he misses the leg drop, Sting goes back to it, and Hogan, in peak Hogan fashion, is like, am I selling this adequately? No. Allow me to look down the camera and just scream, he's going to break my leg. There is no room for subtlety in the world of the Hulkster. He's looking at the camera and he's like, he's going to break my leg. And Savage is like, stay with it. Anything on any of this final stages before we get to the absolute mess?
No, you covered the one thing I wrote in my notes was Hogan's selling of the Deathlock.
It's like he has like a few modes of sell, does he? He does like the one where he just makes noise. He's like, wah, 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 wah. He does that one a lot. But here he goes with a more dramatic, like cinematic almost, like he's gonna break my leg. Okay, Hulk, thank you. In fairness to Hulk, he's effectively saved here. The match is very much framed like Sting could win it here, right? Yeah. We agree. So, of course, the Dungeon of Doom came down. And again, as I've said a million times on this show, this is the time in which Eric is going for realistic, believable characters. Bless him. And then both baby faces like beat up the Dungeon of Doom. Then the Giant comes in. He throttles both of them. Savage hits the Giant gets rid of Savage, and then they get rid of the Giant and they stand tall. Right? That's what happened here?
Yeah.
It was chaos. No apparent reason. The Super Bowl of wrestling ended in tatters. Imagine the Super Bowl, guys from other teams just running out and putting the beating on them. Incredible stuff.
That'd be great. That'd be the best Super Bowl ever if that happened.
Maybe.
That's what we
It'd
need.
probably be the one I'd watch, to be honest. There you go. So, is it fair? So, would you say this lived up to being the Super Bowl of wrestling, that match? I know there's a little post-match here, but the match was fun, right, for what it was. You're never going to expect a classic from those guys, right?
It was a good match I mean, look, it was Sting, Hogan, 95. They weren't going to do too much on free TV. They were going to do too much on pay-per-view, but they definitely weren't going to do too much on free TV. Sting, you're right. The Surfer Sting, the fire he showed in this match, Sting was so good. Hogan was, he was Hogan.
Let's do a little bit. I don't know how long we've gone, Jeremy, so stop me if I get out of control.
We're at 44 minutes.
Okay, cool. I was intrigued as I was watching this. I was thinking, let's imagine that Hogan's deal was going to... When was his first contract coming up? It was not that different between that and the NWO starting. But let's just imagine that he was going to be done and he was going to just leave wrestling, right? The NWO never happens. The way to write him off definitely was to do like a Ultimate Warrior coronation with Sting. Right? That's 100% what they should have done in that universe. My question for you is, Would Hogan have ever lost to that Sting as babyface Hogan? I truly wonder.
No. I he liked. I don't. Did he like Sting?
Well, he'll tell you he did. But
Yeah.
like, the evidence is kind of scattered.
Yeah, that's
right?
the thing. I was about to say, like, he speaks very highly of Sting all the time, which makes me believe he likes him. But then you actually look at what happened, and it's like, I don't know if he did like Sting, which is very Hulk Hogan. Like, that's that's Hogan's entire gimmick.
One of my favorite, like, what could have been little wrestling scenarios is, you know how Sting and Warrior were a team, right? And they went their separate ways. One became the superstar in WCW, one in WWF. I'm fascinated by the universe in which they switch roles. If Hulk Hogan coronates Sting at WrestleMania 6, does wrestling ever go through the horrific period it went through? Or does it just keep rolling in a boom period because Sting is awesome and not the Ultimate Warrior?
It's probably better. It's honestly probably a lot, because Sting kept WCW afloat with a lot of that stuff. You imagine if he had the WWF machine behind him, it would have been so much better. And yeah, he's a million times better than the Warrior as far as just charisma and definitely in ring work.
Because it's just, and I'm sure people are getting frustrated because I always talk about what could have been, but it just interests me, like, think how much stuff was changed by the fact that Warrior sucked as a top guy, and like then the steroid trial and all that stuff, and it's like the Brit push happens because of all that, right? Like that leads into a whole other world of shit. It's like if Sting gets that push, maybe this never happens. And meanwhile, in Gotham, Rick's having to go 60 minutes with the Ultimate Warrior, Clash Champion. So it's just that stuff's always fun to me. But anyway, meanwhile here in WCW, Kevin Hart, he's not
Kevin
here, is he?
Hart. No, I don't think he's.
Jimmy Hart and Kevin Sullivan. They are here, and they effectively assault Bobby Heenan.
Yeah, they break his headset.
Like, he's like this. He's going everywhere. It's chaos, and they don't really do anything, though, do they? As far as I know.
No, they just kind of yell a bunch, and Bischoff screams at him. Bischoff yells back like, "Get out of here!" And then Heenan's headset is like legit snapped, and he's like holding it together like this, and the microphone's not in front of him or anything. Like it legitimately is like snapped in half.
And this sparks a all-time great Eric Bischoff line, as he says in the most stern, concerned fashion of all time, "I tell you what, anybody that thinks they can predict what's happening in WCW, they are twisted." Because I believe that he believes that, and he is running the show at this point, and that is glorious. He has no idea what's going on. It's incredible. I do have some information here, Jeremy. This show was in reaction to 2 straight weeks of losses for Nitro, where they got beat by 0.6. They got a 2, Raw got a 2.6. This week, any prediction for how the war went?
I mean, they put Sting and Hogan on top. I will say a 2.4 to a 2.2 for Nitro.
You're close. It was a 2.5 to a 2.3 for Nitro. So They did sway that. Like DDP often talks about there being like a middle ground fan, and as the war went on, that fan just got bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And if you look at that number, the week before they got a 2, Raw got a 2.6. Effectively they just won over the people in the middle this week, right? I don't know, I mean, I think they won a couple more weeks after this, but it's always lost in the history books that even before the NWO, this was immediately close, wasn't it? The war was immediately swinging back and forth. It was, it was competition straight away.
It was.
Yes, but that was the November 20th, 1995 episode of Nitro. Jeremy, was this as fun as you expected it to be?
It was great because it was 47 minutes and it was, no commercials or anything. Didn't have to sit through any of that. There was certainly bad stuff on this show. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like necessarily a good show, but it breezed by. We had a really good Eddie and Brian Pillman match, so I thought that was very good. But this is a great show. My dog won't shut up.
It was. I often think that, everyone that watches our show, our regular show, knows how much we sort of romanticize these times, but I do think that this WCW, for all of its just terrible stuff for like a wrestling purist, it was a very palatable show for sort of like just sitting down and watching some wrestling, right? It was very like, you didn't have to focus very much on this because they wasn't focusing very much. They couldn't really care less what was going on in details. It was like, oh, it's Sting. I know Sting. It's Ric Flair. It's Hulk Hogan. It was stars. And then if you were a wrestling purist, you got some cool Eddie Guerrero matches underneath. It was a very unique product that we always hear about variety show, right? Variety show. This is like this. Really, at this time, they strive to be a variety show. For better and worse, this was definitely 40 minutes of variety, right? That's what it was.
They had variety stuff. They could have had more. Like, they didn't really have any big promos. Like, Kevin Sullivan had the biggest promo, I guess. That's not Flair in a way, but they didn't have any big promos. Like, the matches, again, outside of Pillman and Eddie, weren't great or anything, but dude, 47 minutes of a wrestling show, I was just in heaven off of that alone. Just the runtime, I was like, yes. It made me just think like every wrestling show should just be an hour. Like, that's it. I don't need 2 hours.
Yeah, like people always say about NXT being worse now, and it's like it's because they had the actual perfect wrestling format of tapes 1 hour. That was the best. They could plan stuff out, so they had good storytelling, and it was only an hour. Like, you would actually have a chance to miss guys. It's so far gone now. But anyway, it was interesting. You pointed out the lack of interviews. At this time, the whole thing was they was live every single week, right?
Yeah.
So they wasn't doing a 2 taping deal here. Raw would do that, I know.
Yeah.
Were they taping anything else on these nights? They must have been doing B shows, right?
I don't know, because Saturday night was always in the studio. I don't know if they were taping B shows. I assume they did like dark matches and stuff. Was WCW Main Event a thing around this time?
So I'm trying to think, but I always think of those B shows as being in the studio too. Right?
Yeah, I feel like they were as well. I really think it was just, I think you had pre-show matches and maybe a post-show segment, but that was it. They weren't actually taping anything else for television.
That's just wild because, like, how much were they paying Gene Okerlund to do one interview? That's insane, right? Like, because there's some Nitros where he is, like, the actual host. He's like, every match ends and it's like, Gene, he's standing by with. We get really none of that here by comparison. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. That was just one thing that passed my mind, but it is a shame we didn't get one of those Flair promos where he just shouts, like, dates, times, names. Not so many promo too. He just says stuff, shouts it into Mean Gene's ear. But it was a different time. The business has changed, Jeremy.
The business has certainly changed.
You told me all those months ago. I mean, imagine Eric going on last with Penta and Phoenix when he could have him in the middle with a 6-minute match, huh? Just imagine. Incredible times.
Anything else from this show?
I don't believe so. I feel for my friend Big Bubba here, who ate a headbutt because he was trying to do a splash and Hulk forgot to move, so he just thrust his head directly into our friend Big Bubba. I don't think I have anything else. I mean, congratulations to Bret the Hitman Hart, who won the WWF title last night.
Oh,
okay. That wasn't
it. Yeah.
I thought I was doing a joke.
Like, what just happened?
Yeah. And see, I was with timeline. I'm intrigued as to what people continue to vote for on these deals, right? I'm interested if this is the end of our Nitro fun. Like, the people have almost just said, that was what you got. Enjoy it, cherish it. Now you're going to do Raw 2004.
I think people actually like us, and so they're not going to make us suffer too much.
You know who doesn't like me? Fight TV.
I was waiting for that.
I am unfollowed. This could be dated. By the time you hear this, I may have a code competition. Check my timeline. But as of right now, I am unfollowed, and I am probably nearing a block from the Fight TV friends. So maybe the brand isn't as strong as we thought it was, Jeremy. I don't know.
It is. Don't worry. Where can they follow you, Joseph?
Where can they follow me? At Joe Hulbert 5. My Twitter it's ramped up in recent times. I apologise. I'm doing Chris Hero watch-along projects. I've prepared a compilation of Randy Orton television matches to watch. This is not a joke. It's a real thing I'm doing. I am doing a Ric Flair, Daniel Bryan watch-along in which I watch one Flair NWA title defense followed by one Bryan Ring of Honor title defense. I tweet about none of this because instead I tweet jokes about the Japanese deathmatch legend, Luther. That's where I'm at. You can follow me. My brand is now exclusively Eddie Kingston, to the point where when people pay to compliment me, they say, yeah, Eddie Kingston's really good. Thanks, guys. What else do they need to know about me, Jeremy? Here's my question for you. If someone said, should I follow Joe Hulbert? Give me like a guide. What would you tell them? An extensive guide to my social media.
And it can't be an extensive guide. It's a 140 character, or 280 character tweet.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
I think I always put when I tell everyone to follow you is that you're funnier than me, and I'm fucking hilarious. So
that's not true though, because you're Reddit funny. You've been proven Reddit funny. That's like the equivalent of an NBA championship. When you get joke posts to Reddit, but my jokes just get like people get angry at me. That never happens to you. Sometimes it happens to you, but not.
It happens to me. Trust me, it happens.
Yeah. I hope no one gets angry about this show, right? Wonder if people watch this show in preparation for our review. Wonder if they expected star ratings from this.
I hope not. If this is your first time ever watching us, we're not the guys who are going to give you star ratings and all that stuff.
Jeremy, what was the highest rated match on this show, and how many stars would you give it?
Bubba and Norton, Bubba and
just making
Hawk.
up matches.
Bubba and Hawk was the highest rated match. I would give it probably 4.25.
Wow, that call was really important, because I was going to say 4, a little low. That match may have actually veered into the negative star territory, but I don't want to be mean.
Yeah, but that's the kind of wrestling that I like. Like, just make it terrible if it's gonna be on the program.
We have reviewed this show for almost an hour, and you've just nailed what we actually meant to say all along. That's why this promotion ruled so much, isn't it? You could have actually good stuff immediately followed by undeniably terrible stuff.
Yeah.
And it was all existing under the same roof. Glorious times here in World Championship Wrestling. Godspeed. Stay with us, WCW. Pride never die, nor will WCW.
Folks, we'll be back next month, reviewing something else from the world of wrestling history. We don't know what it is. Follow Joseph.
I did want to say,
go ahead.
Jeremy, when you see this, folks, suggest shows to me. If you somehow remember a December episode of Wrestling Television, suggest me. I want to do it somewhat timely, so
okay.
Suggest them and I'll get them on the poll, unless it's got something filthy like a Triple H main event.
We're not watching any 3-hour Raw. You suggest a 3-hour Raw. Didn't Nitro used to be 3 hours as well? You suggest anything over 2 hours and you're immediately blocked. So,
banned too. Banned from the distraction forever.
Banned, blocked, all of that. So don't do that. But you can suggest stuff to Joseph. Don't suggest it to me. I'm not listening regardless. Follow Joe on Twitter. He will have the poll. We appreciate everybody supporting us here on Fightful Select. If you enjoyed our review, and why wouldn't you, we are all over Fightful.com as well. We do 2 shows a week at the very least. Tuesdays we review movies, sometimes music. Thursdays we talk about basketball, sometimes wrestling. And then we play TEW as well, the Japanese Deathmatch legend Luther. We see him there.
This is like an indie Photoshop poster.
Sometimes we play TEW, we book Booty Pro Wrestling. Again, we appreciate everybody supporting us and all that fun stuff. Hopefully you had fun with us. We'll be back next month reviewing some other nonsense that we're going to review.